What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Lanter. I am today's man of the hour.
Matt Lanter, buddy, how are you doing? We're looking at 2021 now, and then 2020 being right behind us. And I would like to draw conclusions and say you always look like you're having, quite the time and taking care of yourself. But I don't want to jump to conclusions. So how are you doing?
Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I am doing much better than Eric, the character in Chasing the Ring. So I think most of us probably are. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing good, and looking forward to 2021 and what it's bringing.
Oh man, and that's the thing too. You got to look forward no matter what. We've had a lot of conversations on this podcast around hope and optimism throughout the first season. We had almost 20 episodes, and a lot of times we were talking about that because that's what 2020 had brought a lot of us was crazy uncertain times, hella pandemics, right? But chasing the rain, it's crazy how just a couple weeks ago when we were talking about bringing you on the show, I was already talking about how not that life wasn't fair, but life happens to all of us so differently, or happens for all of us so differently. And I always say that all of our lives are so different. But for Chasing the Rain, tell us a little bit about the film, kind of what people can expect, and then what you ultimately would hope resonates with people when they watch it.
Yeah, sure. I'll start by saying it is sort of our director and writer, Cindy Jansen, has kind of said the same thing. The film is a little bit of a challenge to the hashtag blessed culture.
Mm.
And not that I am personally in opposition, because I often write hashtag blessed because I feel that way.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying by that is a lot of times people don't feel hashtag blessed, and it makes it even harder when those people see others walking around using the term blessed. I feel so blessed.
Mm.
And it obviously can go really, really deep. And, maybe those people are on the same level spiritually as others around them, positive or negative. But I think the film challenges that in the way that, what if things aren't great? What if you do believe in God? What if you believe, but things aren't good? Like, so what now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why? Because I believe. And like you said, it just doesn't work out that way for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And bad things happen over and over and over. And gosh, I mean, there's just obviously this is a super, super deep conversation. We could even go, really deep. But obviously, a common question is like, why do bad things happen to good people? And just there's so much there to talk about. But the film kind of challenges that, and we see a character who goes down this path of just emotional anguish, physical illness, and is also feeling empathy for people in other parts of the world who can't even have access to a glass of clean water for their baby. And there's a line in the film when he says, you all are sucking down your peppermint lattes while she's digging a grave for her baby in the dry dirt, something like that. And
Yeah.
it just makes you think. It's a film that I think connects us all as humans. I think it validates the feelings that we do feel, especially in this past year, feelings of loneliness and depression and uncertainty, like you mentioned, and it just validates all that. It's a film that just really speaks to us on a deep emotional level. The feelings that the range of emotions that we were, if you believe in God, that God made us to have, and it's okay to talk about those. It's okay to experience those, and it's okay to be angry at those. Really, really long answer to a question, but there's a lot going on here. So
Couldn't have started the show off in any other way, Matt, because I mean, listen, we drive conversation with depth, and I think everything is about depth nowadays. This movie portrays a lot of that. And then for you to play a character, and you alluded to this, to experience other areas of the world, see what other people are going through. That's what this character did, and then took a lot of that emotional turmoil back into his real life, where he probably was hashtag blessed. I saw a part of the trailer where his roommate or his friend had come in and said like, "Oh, where'd you just come back from?" And he's said the wrong country, and he was like, no, dude, it's Kenya. So something like that, that's what we all experience on the daily with people
Mhm.
who don't necessarily know anything outside of their privileged, blessed life, for example, or just a life that's like probably normal here in the US, but
Yeah.
so foreign to
Mhm.
somewhere else. So what did you learn particularly? Because I feel like we can learn from what you had learned from acting through this, through the film.
Sure. Yeah, you said it, and there are multiple instances in the film where we actually do portray and speak right to that what you just said, where you have the character going, "Oh, where'd you were in Africa,
Africa, yeah.
or whatever." I don't remember what he said, but yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned it. He said the wrong country, and that's kind of the point. That's like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, yeah, that's going on over there. But hey, we have this party going on tonight here, you know. And then there's another piece in the film where there's a crew of people helping dig a well, and
Mm.
one of the guys is a privileged Westerner. Is dumping Fiji water on his head because he's hot. And
Yeah.
those little things that Cindy included are just so brilliant because it does speak to a large portion of us. And I'm not saying that we're doing that on purpose. It's just
Yeah.
it's easy to be in our own bubbles, and not understand or have the empathy for things going on outside of our bubble. It's a natural thing, but it happens. Um, yeah, and this character, I don't know that he ever was hashtag blessed. I think that this character probably feels deeper than a lot of people,
Hmm.
most people. I think that there are individuals like that just feel on a deeper level. And I think he did. And I think he has sympathy and compassion and empathy on a deeper level than what we did. But what's interesting is that even though it may have started that way for that character, I think it actually flipped on him. And he was the one that was needing that outlet more
Yeah.
so than that. And specifically, I'm talking about, in Kenya and these people without water, and he was helping build wells. Maybe in the beginning you would see it as he's helping these people,
Hmm.
but really it's actually quite the opposite. These people and this community was what was keeping him alive and feeling an importance in a lonely world. And I think that was his only connection to real humanity.
Hmm.
And so, as opposed to him sort of being a savior
Sure.
coming from the West,
The hero from the West, right?
it was actually
I,
quite the opposite.
I think a lot of people can, relate to that in respect to just sometimes you're not the one always needing to give a hand. You might be experiencing something in your life because you needed the hand. I've often, anytime you volunteer, give your time to people and your heart to people, sometimes you learn a lot more about yourself than you would
Yes.
have expected. And that's what this role did for you, I'm assuming.
It's funny you're saying. I was literally just about to say that on a very, very basic level. Sometimes it feels better to give a gift than it does to receive a gift.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of what I'm saying with Eric. I think maybe even selfishly, he knew that he was getting more out of
From
helping.
giving, yeah, but that's the gift of giving, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say? Throughout
Yeah.
anything, we just passed the holiday time. We're in the new year now, and it's like you start thinking to yourself, how much more can I give? Uh,
Yeah.
Perfect segue into what I was going to ask you next, Matt. I mean, you've built an extraordinary career in acting. There's no doubt about it. I've seen you on several screens, dude, and I think
Oh,
that
thank you.
that says something because I don't. I mean, I watch TV, but I'm 24, so I was watching you when I was in Japan growing up. Like we've seen you on a lot of screens, and I think there's something to be said about the influence that comes with such a great career. When you look forward for the next 12 months, dude, we have a whole 12 months to like impact, to change, to really take what 2020 did to a lot of us and, drive as much impact as we can. If you had, a couple of things that you want to give to the year, given your platform, given the things that you've been able to influence people with, what would those things be?
Oh man, that's a really hard and deep question.
Yeah, bro, I told you this was a conversation with depth.
Yeah, yeah. How do I impact? I I don't know.
Or if you could.
Yeah. I mean, if I could, I mean, obviously, like, there's the obvious, like, maybe cliche answers of saying, like, oh, I'm gonna help more, people that are less fortunate, and that's all good and dandy. But I think maybe on a more realistic scale, in kind of the same way that you set New Year's resolution goals. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If you start small, and if you kind of focus in little, Like if you say, well, I'm gonna be rich this year, like, well, that's really broad. And how are you gonna do it?
Hmm.
But if you focus in and say, okay, maybe I'm gonna do this one thing to help further. So I'm using that as an example that I don't know. I think maybe what I just do is I try to be the best husband I can be. I try to be the best
Hmm.
father I can be. I try to instill morals and values into my daughter. She's 3,
Yeah.
about being a good person and sharing and having sympathy and compassion and
Hmm.
empathy and teaching her. I actually think maybe that's just as important as me going out and, I don't know, financially giving. I feel
Sure.
like, and maybe those who are not parents don't quite understand that answer, but as a
Mhm.
parent now, I feel like I'm helping pour into the future world by trying to instill those things in my daughter and for the
Mhm.
generation that's to come after us.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I don't know if that's a great answer or not,
That's
but
a good answer.
that's
It's
what
like
I've come
building
up
a
with.
short list and then doing what you can with the immediate. The immediate's your daughter and your wife and the life that you have like at home, especially if we're going to continue to stay at home this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean
And the immediate things are,
that's my very very immediate bubble that I know I can do.
yeah,
Now, obviously, I think it'd be great to be able to financially give
sure.
in certain areas, which we do, but um, just on a very very small scale. That's, I think, where you can start, is things that you know you can accomplish.
I love it, man. Because that's a simple way to do it, right?
Right.
Simplicity is going to kind of help you accomplish a lot more goals, if anything. I want to talk about the idea of, I want to go back to rather this idea that life isn't fair, simply because I don't think it is, and it's maybe not supposed to be. I don't think that life is supposed to be super fair for everybody across the board. But after you've done this film with Chasing the Rain, and after you've done so many hits in all these shows and movies now, even your voice acting work, right? You've done a lot of work to the point where the hustle has been real for so long. And I'm sure, I mean, you've alluded to this in previous junkets and interviews that like you've had to build that. It's not like you just were given this platter of opportunity of gig after gig after gig. I'm going to knock on all the wood on all the wood here.
Yeah.
But you know, after you're presented with a lot more opportunity after having built something when you've hustled your ass off for so many years to now make it in Hollywood, that's got to be an anecdote for life not being fair to be something that you no longer have to think about. For example, I think that sometimes life isn't fair to a lot of people who don't see the opportunity in life. So for you, you saw a lot of opportunity, you went after it, you made a lot of things happen. But can you talk us through the process of kind of how you did that year after year, gig after gig, in terms of just like creating more opportunities so that life didn't have to feel so much like a competition with people who had more or less than you?
Mm. Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I think you're absolutely right. Whether it be we're talking about Hollywood and the answer I'm about to talk about, or whether it be your own life, where it happens to all of us. You see the other person, your neighbor.
Yeah.
Oh, they got that new car. Oh, they got that new promotion. Oh, oh, they're able to have a baby, and we're
Yeah.
not. So it happens all around us, and it happens all the time. Obviously, it happens in my line of work and being an actor. You obviously see the guy next to you that got the offer in the massive studio movie and is now a superstar and is now, getting to travel the world and experience all these things. Meanwhile, then you watch the film and you're like, really? That guy got the role? Yeah, it happens. I mean, it's happened
Yeah.
plenty to me, but you know what? I'm sure plenty of people think that about me too.
Yeah.
I'm sure guys that I auditioned with and all that, they maybe feel the same about me. And they're like, why is this guy getting all over? Why is this guy doing Timeless? Why is he doing, why does he get to do Star Wars? So I think that's, we do that
Hmm.
everywhere. Um, yeah, but I mean, for me, it has been like, it's been really great. And I mean, as much as I had said, we challenged the hashtag blessed culture. I do
Yeah.
feel hashtag blessed as Matt Lanter. I've got an amazing family. I've got a healthy daughter. I've got a career. I'm able to take care of my family. So I do feel hashtag blessed. Um, Sometimes it is just about perspective. And, maybe Eric could take that a little more into consideration. Obviously, he was towards the end of the movie dealt a very, very, very hard hand.
Mm.
But sometimes it is about perspective, and um, it's almost like a retrain your brain thing. If you're grateful for the things that you do have, you feel blessed.
Mm.
But if you always look to the next thing as something that, oh, I didn't get, or I couldn't have, you're never going to be satisfied.
Mm.
You're never going to be fulfilled. So I think there's a lesson in that to be learned too. That if you focus on what you have and to focus on what is good and what's
Yeah,
positive, that there's your perspective and your mind shifts as well.
man.
So yeah, I mean, I feel that way with my career. Like, yeah, has there been down times where I really haven't worked much? Are there times where I'm like, oh, I'm never getting another job? It's game over. Yeah,
Mm.
but then it happens and things prevail, and I'm able to put food on my table, and so it's life.
And gratitude too. I always say that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, no matter what. Like you mentioned
I
that
believe in
Eric
that.
was dealt a certain hand. You and I were dealt certain hands. It's why I'm interviewing you. It's why you saying this over a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Our world was dealt the hand of COVID, and that's why we have to do it over Zoom. One day we'll be in person, Matt. But for now, I think that that's what has been so beautiful about life. Period. Dot. When you change your perspective, you start having a different lens on life. If you ever write a book, you can steal that title, Lens on Life. But really, if you change the lens on life, it's like, gosh, I really am happy to be where I'm at. But it takes a lot of work too, and you got to put in, like I said it when I asked you the question, hustle, hustle, hustle. You've had to go after the gigs. You've had to be told no. But then sometimes miracles do happen where someone will give you a call and give you that Star Wars or Timeless gig or whatever that might have been for you too.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned Timeless earlier, right? You talked about Timeless, and um, my character Wyatt often challenged those same things. These are very
Yeah.
human things to feel. Is it fate? Are we destined to be this, or do we control our own fate? And
Right.
he argued that a lot of times when something bad happened, his wife had died, and
Yeah.
occasionally someone would say, "Well, it's just kind of
Out
the way
there.
things are meant to be," and like he
Mm.
couldn't live with that. No, it's not how it's meant to be. So there's a bigger question there too. Like, is it all written in the stars, or do we
Mm.
control our own destiny? It's interesting. It's interesting to think about. Kind of makes your head hurt, but
Yeah, well, listen, and chasing the rain makes your head hurt too. I think anything thought provoking happens in your world. You brought up two
yeah,
very
yeah.
good characters that you happen to get tapped for these types of roles. I wanted to ask you too before we finish up here, Matt. When you're playing roles, I know you get to say yes and no to a lot of things that you're offered, but particularly with the most recent roles you've played, man, you play a lot of really thought provoking, life lesson like roles where, in some sense, watching you in this film, watching you on Timeless is teaching a lot to the audience who's tuning in. It's teaching me a lot from hearing that you have said these things about what you've learned and how these characters play out. But as you're going along this acting journey, are you continuing to just, learn more about life and put new lenses on every time you get off set?
Always, always. I think just like anybody changes and evolves and feels in their own life by experiences they experience. I think the
Mm.
same thing is with acting. Like my eyes are open to certain characters and certain experiences, and and that I have to kind of sit with and understand that character and where the shoes that they're in. And yeah, it definitely sticks with me, changes my outlook, um, adds to my understanding of others,
Mm.
for sure, for sure. And yeah, I do. I think any actor seeks out roles that are important, roles that make you feel something and roles that have depth. I mean, that's when you hear an actor say, well, that character has depth. I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I always seek out stuff like that. I've been really uh, all the characters. I mean, we're talking about Timeless and Star
Yeah.
Wars too. I mean,
Yeah.
really, Star Wars is a really really deep story, and the character arc of Anakin and the things that he goes through and feels. Like if you want to look for it, it's there. Like those themes are there, those emotions are there. It's
Power
not
of
just sci-fi.
storytelling.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot from that too. I mean, uh, yeah.
Man, you keep doing it, Matt. I'm so glad we had this conversation, especially when you think about the fact that sometimes life's not fair. And again, that's okay because it's about the perspective and lens that you put on life, right? And the adventures and efforts that you put into foresight, like anything that you want to make happen. And for you, like I said, this is a brand new year of opportunity. And be it that you help your daughter understand how she can be a better person while growing up, being a good father, being a good husband, being a good freaking actor, so we can enjoy films like Chasing the Rain. I think it's you're doing doing a lot for society. It's why we coined you the Man of the Hour. It's the whole reason this show was built, man. You help make the Men of the Hour podcast a community for people to really better understand like how, we too can also start doing small things every single day, right? Or even looking at your story from our lens and understanding better how and why you pick certain roles. But to have this particular conversation again about life not being fair, I could not have asked to do it with anybody other than yourself. Matt Lanter, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.